My name is Erin Danford. I'm a student here at UNC, graduating in May, and I'm here with Jochen Bard from the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft in Germany. Jochen, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, my name is Jochen Bard, and I'm with the Fraunhofer Institute for Energy Economics and Energy System Technology, based in Kassel in Germany. My background is physics, and I have been working in renewable energy for my entire career, really, starting in '95. So different aspects of technology development, energy storage, and different renewable technologies.
And you focus primarily on storage, is that right?
Yeah, that's one of the pillars of our research at home, yeah.
Great. So how does Fraunhofer drive innovation in Germany? Can you tell me a little bit about what Fraunhofer is and how the model works?
Yeah, the Fraunhofer is a unique model in Germany in the way that it bridges between the fundamental research that you find in universities and fundamental research organizations and industrial research. So we're trying to bridge that gap through what we call applied research. The organization is named after a guy, Fraunhofer, who was a researcher, an inventor, and an entrepreneur. So that's the idea, that you combine a solid scientific and engineering background with understanding how business works and bring that forward into innovation and ideas that are then implemented by the industry.
Great. So you work with private industry then to do research?
Yeah, the finance model is that we receive around 30% of our 2.5 billion euro annual research budget from the government as a basic grant. Then there is another third of public funded projects which we have to acquire in a competitive way. And the last third, the last pillar is industrial research, where we receive contracts from industry in order to help them solve their challenges. So we have three pillars which are equally one third each of the research budget.
Right, that's very interesting, and that's something that we really don't see a lot in the United States. It's a very unique model to connect academia with private enterprise and also the federal government. So why is that partnership so crucial to research for you?
Well, because we want to do applied research, meaning that the results should be implemented in a way that society and economy benefits from it. And that requires that we understand and analyze where are the challenges from a societal point of view, from an economic point of view, where are things changing down to a structural change in the economy or the society and so forth. And we need to understand that up front before it happens, and then try to very systematically develop solutions that help to facilitate the change and use innovation in order to accelerate change and provide new business opportunities for the industry that we are working with. So we need to understand what is the business model of our clients and systematically try and identify gaps and needs that they might have in the future and prepare ourselves through the public funded research projects in order to be able to support the companies with their needs.
Great. So do these private companies ever come to Fraunhofer with ideas of things that they need current research in?
Of course, very often that's the case, that they know certain area of expertise that they can find within Fraunhofer. If they don't know, there's still entry points where they can just go ahead and ask, is there someone in your organization who can help us with the following problem? And they will then be guided to the experts that can handle or deal with these challenges. So there's a whole range of scientific and engineering skills and topics that we address, and often industry. In most cases, industry comes to us and asks us, "Can you help us with this problem?" And then there's a negotiation phase. There are resources required, and we're quite successful in actually doing such contract research with industry. This year it's around 700 million euros in contracts that we will do for the industry.
Great. So I think you mentioned there are about 80 different Fraunhofer sites throughout Germany. Is that correct? And each one has a different focus?
Yeah. Well, it's organized through the institutes, and some institutes have several sites. So it's at the moment 72 institutes across a whole range of scientific and engineering topics. They all the institutes have their own specialization. There is certainly sometimes some overlap, but we try to avoid duplication of effort, in particular when it comes to infrastructure for the labs that we have and so forth. So the way that we organize internally is that we have research alliances, and there is 24 at the moment, where we try to bring together in an interdisciplinary way the different skills and mindsets from a number of institutes that are dealing with a similar a topic, for example, energy research or water systems or medical engineering, those kind of things.
Great. And can you describe how Fraunhofer contributes to the growth of small businesses? Because from what I understand, the German Mittelstand is very important to the German economy. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, we have a very strong Mittelstand, as you already said, which consists of small and medium enterprises. A lot of these small and medium enterprises are R&D driven or innovation driven, and they will not necessarily have the capacity and the resources to do all the research and development on their own. They might not have the laboratory equipment that they need or for testing new components. They might need information that they cannot gather themselves. So they contact Fraunhofer and ask for support. And even though there's often one entry point, an institute where they know someone who works in the same sector, the good thing is that we can always pull in people from other institutes that can then fill a knowledge gap that we can't cover or address. And so the collaboration within the whole organization enables us to help a lot of people with a range of problems.
Great. So if a small business were to come to Fraunhofer with an issue that they need expertise in, would Fraunhofer be the one paying for that service, or would the small business be taking on the cost?
Yeah, we cannot pay ourselves what we for doing service to the industry. What we arrange for is the research upfront, so that we have the right methods in place, the right research infrastructure in place. But the individual service is typically paid for by the companies. If they do not have sufficient resource to pay for the service, there are specific research and funding programs available to SMEs in Germany. And larger companies will only receive 50% funding due to the regulations in Europe, but SMEs can receive up to 65% funding, but they will always have to provide some of that from their own internal resources. And then part of the deal is also how to use the IP, the intellectual property that is generated within the collaboration. And that's always a very specific negotiation with the company, depending on what they are going to use, what kind of services and so forth. And the typical split is that the product-specific IP is always with the company, so that they can exclusively use that result. But what we keep for ourselves is the learning that we achieve through doing yet another project on something. So we improve on our methodologies and our techniques, and that is the IP that we keep in order to be able to help the next client with our experience.
Great. And Fraunhofer also works extensively with students, is that right? How do you prepare students for the workforce?
Most institutes have a collaboration with a local university, so that is an important source for recruiting students. Some of our colleagues are professors at universities. Typically the head of a unit sometimes has a professorship at the university. So they are teaching a topic that is relevant also within the institute, and we then offer bachelor and master thesis for students, for example, but we also have students that are simply working in our projects. They are paid as a student researcher within the project. And for most of them, that is it's a fantastic learning experience because of the applied nature of the research. They learn a lot about how to bring ideas into the market, into reality, and how to deal with the client, and how to do scientific work. And we do not have a problem to find students. It is the other way around. We cannot, accept everyone who has an interest to work with us. It's typically like that.
That's great. So most students then are aware of this opportunity and know that Fraunhofer is somewhere they can go.
Yeah, I mean, the organization is now 70 years old and we have 26,000 people. So it is a large organization that students know about. We have a good reputation. We're very popular among people that have finished university. So most people are well aware of the opportunities that Fraunhofer provides.
That's great. And do most students meet people in private industry while working at Fraunhofer that can lead to a job after graduation?
Yeah, that's very often the case. I mean, due to the applied nature of the research, even the public funded projects are typically in collaboration with companies. So students working in these projects will also have contact to the companies that are working in that topic, in that project. And very often that leads to a job in industry. Sometimes people get a job with us and then go on to industry. So there's all kinds of formats depending on what the appetite of the student is. Many go on with a PhD, so we have a lot of PhDs as well. We do not ourselves, we are not able to provide a PhD qualification, but in collaboration with the universities that I mentioned before, there's always an opportunity to do a PhD at the Fraunhofer Institute, and that's also a very successful model.
Great. So Fraunhofer sort of works as that link between universities and private business then.
Yeah,
is that how you see
exactly,
it?
Exactly, yeah. That's exactly our role, yeah.
That's great. So you said more students come to you than you can take. What qualities are you usually looking for in students? What qualifications do they need to have to come to Fraunhofer?
Well, that depends certainly on what the project is about, what the context is, and so but let's say in general, what we are expecting from students is that they have their qualifications from engineering and science topics that they have studied, that they have a bit of a creative gene as well. As I mentioned before, that innovative aspect is something that they must be interested in, and also an understanding in how businesses work. You cannot do applied research without trying to understand what is the business model behind the product that you are helping to develop, or what is the cause of the problem that you are trying to solve. So we try to educate students there, but you need to be open to do that. We still share skills, so we have people who are basically programming, we have people who are doing measurements in the labs, and so it's a mix of activities, and we try to match the interest of the students with the tasks that we have in the projects.
Another thing that's really interesting about German business and innovation is the way that you incentivize employees. Can you explain how Fraunhofer works to incentivize employees to continue to innovate, and how that might be different from the models that we have in the United States?
Yeah, well, motivation is certainly the key to successful research and development. And as I said, I think that the good news is that most people come with an intrinsic motivation to do something, to solve problems and work with challenges. On top of that, of course, we have different incentives. There are the career models within Fraunhofer, of course. So if you start working with us, you have different opportunities to specialize, become a senior researcher, or become a project leader for very large projects. And we do train and educate people how to manage projects professionally. So there's a lot of education and training alongside your career. And most people are interested in developing themselves further. So that is the opportunity we are providing is a great motivator. Another thing is that we try to provide a good work-life balance, so we are a bit more flexible with contracts and working hours and home offices and those kind of things, which a lot of young people nowadays prefer over a higher salary maybe in the industry as long as they are young. Right. And then of course we also have like a bonus system when you agreed that you with your group leader or the head of your unit that you want to achieve something within your group, let's say establish a new method or contracts and relationships with new industrial partners. That can be an objective that you agree on, and then there is a bonus payment for achieving that later on. So we try to help people develop their career, and at the end of the day we keep around 50% 50% of our staff in permanent contracts, and the other 50% will leave the institute after 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, and then move on to universities or to industry. So they're taking that as a starting point for their career very often.
So is it common for an employee to move between doing research at a university and at Fraunhofer?
Yeah, that's actually quite common. It's not. These worlds are not in isolation as much as they are probably in other countries or in other parts of the world. We sometimes hire people who have worked in industry before, come back to research and work with us. For example, the recruiting of the directors of the institutes will always involve that they have some experience in the industry. They must have a very solid engineering or scientific background, but in most cases, Fraunhofer chooses directors who also have worked in industry for a while, so that they know both worlds. So it's very common that people change between university, Fraunhofer, and industry throughout their career.
Right, and that's not something that we really see in the United States at all. So do you think that this is a model that could be used in the United States or in other countries, and how would it have to be changed?
Well, that's a good question. I think if it's part of the culture that you decide at an early point whether you do more of an academic career or you go into industry, that is something that's not too easy to change. I think that typically at universities, the experience from industry is less relevant than your reputation as a researcher. So I think that universities would have to open up a little bit to accept other skills and reputations that are not necessarily purely academic and based on papers and citation index, and that would then allow them to hire also people who have an experience in industry and then bring that experience also into the education system and use their network to improve on the collaboration with industry.
So there needs to be a change in the way that the university sees industry experience.
Yeah,
then.
from the side of the university. That's we could probably discuss that, but I think that's an element that would certainly help. On the other hand, in industry, some of the industrial sectors, they hire only young people that they can still model into a career at the industry. But we see also a lot of senior people who have probably done a PhD and then still worked a couple of years as a senior researcher, and there's a very high demand for these people in the German industry as well. So I think it's a bit of a cultural thing. But if all the let's say organizations involved open up their way of thinking about qualification, I think that is an enabler for more exchange between industrial research and academic research, which I think can be a very, very strong feature for an economy.
Right. So is it common for employees at Fraunhofer to maybe leave to continue their education and then come back to Fraunhofer, or is it too difficult for Fraunhofer to lose employees like that?
No, it does happen like that, but I wouldn't say there's like a general rule how a career works, but we often find that people apply for a position who have done their master thesis at the Fraunhofer Institute elsewhere a few years before and come back to Fraunhofer again, maybe at a different institute. But we also do recruit people, students who have done like their master thesis with us, and then we have a position in a project, they then apply and they will continue there, and they might have an appetite for a PhD, and then we try to organize that in collaboration with the university. So we try to support the career plan that a young researcher has, and that's a win-win situation, I would think, because if you can maintain motivation of the people that way, and they can clearly see their career path that we can provide, they will work hard in order to achieve that.
Right. That's a great way to incentivize employees for sure.